What happens if a downstream oxygen sensor in a car goes bad? First, let's clarify what the downstream oxygen sensor does. A car typically has two types of oxygen sensors: upstream, before the catalytic converter, and downstream, after the catalytic converter. The downstream sensor primarily monitors the efficiency of the catalytic converter, ensuring it's reducing emissions effectively. So, what happens if this sensor goes bad? Check engine light. One of the most immediate and obvious signs is the check engine light, CEL, turning on. Modern vehicles have sophisticated onboard diagnostic systems that will detect a faulty sensor and alert you through the cell. Engine performance. While the downstream oxygen sensor doesn't directly affect the engine performance like the upstream sensor does, an error in its readings can still lead to some issues. The engine control unit, ECU, relies on this sensor to manage the catalytic converter's efficiency. If it gets bad readings, it might lead to a misbalance in the air-fuel mixture, potentially causing a slight decrease in performance or fuel efficiency. Emissions test failure. A bad downstream oxygen sensor can cause your vehicle to fail an emissions test. This is crucial if you live in an area that requires periodic emissions testing, like Portland, Oregon. The sensor's primary role is to ensure the catalytic converter is doing its job, so a faulty sensor can lead to inaccurate emissions readings, pushing your vehicle's emissions beyond permissible limits. Increased emissions. While you might not immediately notice this as a driver, a bad downstream sensor can lead to higher emissions. If the ECU can't accurately monitor the catalytic converter's efficiency, it might let through more pollutants than usual, which isn't great for the environment. Catalytic converter issues. Over time, if the downstream oxygen sensor is not monitoring correctly, it might fail to alert you to issues with the catalytic converter itself. This could lead to further damage to the catalytic converter, potentially resulting in a more costly repair later on. If you suspect your downstream oxygen sensor is failing, it's best to get it checked out sooner rather than later. The repair might not be very expensive, but ignoring it can lead to more significant issues down the line. Regular maintenance and paying attention to your vehicle's alerts can save you a lot of hassle and money in the long run.